Hey there, viewers, subscribers, and onlookers all the same. Welcome to the next podcast session on GameFAQs.com, as I talk with one another of the past greats of the grid. Join with me here is Tarquinus, founder of the Lightning Strike Coalition clan alongside MZDZMZ, and formerly of Elite Overlords, I think?
Right,
Oh, okay. So, Torque, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing alright, how about you?
Oh, I've been doing pretty good. Actually, I had a pretty big match with Straxus finally after a whole year. I was finally able to pin him down for a match.
Good. He's elusive. Slippery.
Yeah, now I know how he got the name Elucidator.
Yeah. He definitely does that pretty well.
Mm-hmm. So, you ready to hit up our Q&A?
Sure, let's do it.
Alrighty-o. Alright, question one on my panel was, what inspired you to make a difference in the communities you were a part of?
Well, I will have to tell you a little bit of my life story to get into that. The big thing was, and I'm going to kind of give my age away a little bit here, but I've been a fan of Transformers since the 1980s. I loved Generation 1, Generation 2, Beast Wars, all that good stuff growing up, but the one thing that we never really had were any Transformers video games. Then they came out with the one on the PlayStation 2 that was based on the first Michael Bay movie, and of course I bought that the first day. Wasn't really a good game, but it was the first one that I ever got to play that was an actual Transformers game.
You never
So
had
then a couple of years later, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, not to interrupt you, but you never had a chance to play the that was for PlayStation 2. You never had a chance to play it was a 2003-2004 video game for PlayStation 2. It was Transformers, the game that was based on the Armada era.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. I did not play that one because I did not like Armada.
Damn, you missed a good video game.
Yeah, that's what I've heard after the fact, but I just, Armada kind of turned me off because it was, like Pokemon for Transformers.
I can't deny some truth in that. Energon felt more like the Pokemon.
Yeah, that did too. There were some good toys, but, the actual show didn't do a whole lot for me. But, they came out with War for Cybertron in 2010, I believe. And, I bought that the first day it came out, absolutely loved it, played the multiplayer basically nonstop for 2 years. And then, of course, Fall of Cybertron came out in 2012. And that was another one where I bought it the day it came out and played it pretty much constantly. And, it was really cool to actually see a lot of other people who were still into Transformers. I thought for the longest time I was the only person who liked Transformers. I didn't know there were actually other people out there who enjoyed it, who wanted to play a game like that. And, after a while, you just start playing, at certain times of the day and certain days of the week. You kind of run into the same people over and over again. You make friends just like you do in any online game. And from that's kind of what led me into getting into the FOC community. I looked up something on GameFAQs about it, the single player, saw the message board, and been with it ever since.
So you were part of GameFAQs before it really was a running thing.
I think I joined GameFAQs in the summer of 2013. I could be mistaken, but I think that's when I did. But, I had been following the board for a little bit before that. And, you would see at the time, like, the big arguments were between, of course, NOD and WCW. And a lot of people jumping all over Yuggle about this, that, or the other, which that's never changed.
That's why LG and Gears never got along.
Well, it doesn't hurt. That was definitely a part of it.
Oh. History. On top of history.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of history there. That's pretty much how I got involved with that.
If I may, to delve into it slightly, when did you first meet Prey and Moses?
Excuse me. I met Prey in 2013, right after I joined EO, which would have been in the summer of 2013. And we were, we talked. We were friends for a while before I met MZ, and he knew MZ before I did, and I really didn't meet MZ until he joined LSC.
Oh.
And that would have been in, I think, the spring of 2014. I think April, something like that.
Okay. Because I asked, because it's like you and Moses, you and MZ are like really, really good friends, because you guys put your heads together. You guys like you solve anything.
Well, and it just happened over time. We, originally the people who were who joined LSC, who started it, it was myself, Dolphin Boy, Ismeno, Prey, Danicky85. Oh, jeez, I'm forgetting somebody. I feel bad now. Lord Starscream, and finally MZ. We were the original members. And so
LSC had all those guys?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
With the exception of MZ and Lord Starscream, all of us were part of EO. We were part of what you call the Air Force. At that time, I was the second in command of EO, and basically, I was, I guess, in charge of the jets. There were like 40 people in the clan, and we were the ones who broke away and did that.
Wow.
But yeah, and with MZ, it's really interesting because at first, I didn't know him very well, and he tended to kind of follow Prey's lead a lot and stuff. But as time went on, he became a more active voice in the group. He started, really kind of coming out with his own ideas, with his own solutions to things. And by, I guess it was December of 2015, I was kind of looking to step down as the leader of the group. And the only person that I really thought that would be the natural successor was MZ at that point. Just because we did have such a good close working relationship. We got along super well, and just time for some new blood. And he did a pretty fantastic job, I'd say.
The Lightning Scout was a good pick. Question 2. How has the online community affected you all around?
You mean in terms of interactions with other people, or in the game, or what?
To reiterate the question or rephrase it, how it affected you in terms of, I guess, general relations with people, which you pretty much kind of answered half that question in our preceding thing. And, how's the online community affected you?
Well,
yeah, just how it's affected you in terms of relations with other people. In terms of the closest friends that you had from the past clan experiences, it seems like it's affected your relations in a rather extensively positive perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it has. And I mean, everything you have to look at as being a positive, because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in negativity. I mean, I would be completely lying if I said that, I didn't have my fair share of moments, and interactions that I'm, maybe not particularly proud of, and things that I said to other people that, in retrospect, I probably shouldn't, and things that I did that maybe I shouldn't have done. But, you can't really take any of that back. It's something that most people, I guess, really aren't aware of now. But, at one time, Lord Megatron and I, were very close friends. And when we split away from EO and LSC, that had a real impact on that. And it was unfortunate because, I felt like I did lose a friend as a result of it. But I gained others. And so it's kind of a live and learn situation.
Okay. Question 3. What is your stance on hackers and commonplace cheaters?
Fuck them. That's my stance.
That is a very, very direct and blunt statement, and I can't blame you for it.
Well, and I'll tell you why too. I remember in War for Cybertron when all of that really started, when you start to see the people with the different abilities and classes and
Yep.
loadouts,
And you started seeing
you know,
people started to introduce, and all the pioneers that introduced that entire shady perspective in the gameplay.
right, and then that just became a constant feature of it, and you couldn't play a single match eventually without it being basically filled with hacking and glitching, and it's just not fun, at that point. You know, these are people who, for whatever reason, think that they're special enough to be entitled to ruin the game for everybody else. Why? I don't know, but they think that. They'll never admit that, but that's what they think because it's what they do. It's how they act. And then when you started seeing it in Fall of Cybertron, it started out pretty benign. The big thing, of course, for the longest time was ghost glitching, and the people who would do the skywalking in what's the map?
On launch, when they figure out how to get out the map, and then they try and abuse that
Right.
one little glitch and saying that it's legal.
Right, exactly. And I mean, it's the skywalking thing. For me, like it's still shitty, but it's like, well, you're kind of just stuck up there, so I mean, we can kill you pretty easily. But the ghost glitching was really annoying, and it was really disappointing when you started to see a bunch of people who were in the community who previously were all anti-glitching, who were like, oh yeah, no, I'd never do that, blah 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 blah, and then they start doing it not because they get any real advantage out of it, but because they're trying to prove a point against somebody else, because they're trying to ruin someone else's game, like they're intentionally trying to make it less fun and more annoying for other people. If you're just some kid who is playing the game and you're like 10 years old and you're like, oh, look at this, I can scoot my little car in here and transform and people can't see me and I can hit them and they die. Yeah, I get that. It's whatever. I don't like it, but I understand that impulse. But then when you've got the people who actually are part of the community and who play the game a lot, and then they just start doing it for that express purpose, then yeah, that's kind of where I run into a problem with it.
I gotcha, because you got those that seek to glitch or cheat outside the norm in order to prove a point, and then you got those that do it that just because they just don't care.
Exactly, and I mean, I do kind of ultimately lump them all together in that same category, but it's more disappointing when it's people that really ought to know better.
Especially after all this time. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially after all the things that they may have said about glitchers and not wanting to support glitching and yada yada yada, but they just do it to like I said, ruin someone else's game.
Okay. What about in private matches, though? Would you still frown down upon it, or it wouldn't be too big of a impact in private mode as opposed to public mode?
Well, that to me right there, I mean, if that's how people really want to play the game in a private mode, they can go ahead and do that all day long as everyone's aware that that's what's going to be happening.
Mutual
but yeah,
consent. Yeah, like a mutual consent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're going to do that, I mean, I think that's kind of goofy personally. But if that's what people want to do and everyone's okay with it in the private game, okay, no one's getting leaderboard points for this. Nobody's improving their kill death ratio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, go for it. Kind of like I said, goofy, but whatever.
Okay. And I can understand the truth of that. I mean, I'm all right with it if it happens behind closed doors, but if it's in pub matches where everybody can see it and potentially also try and abuse it from having watched you do it, not cool.
Right, and that's actually a big point too, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I think that exposing a whole bunch of people to that sort of thing, showing them how to do it. I mean, now everyone knows how to. But back in the day, it was like a huge mystery. Like, oh man, how'd they do that? How'd they get in there? And people would have to show each other, and it was on and on and on. And then of course, some people would just accidentally figure it out if they ran into the wall at a weird angle and transformed. It was like, oh, okay, now I'm a ghost. But for a long time, it was something that was supposed to be kept really under wraps, and people weren't going to talk about how to do it. And then it just kind of the genie got out of the bottle.
Yep, and the magic happened all over the place, and now we're trying to either slowly put the genie back in her bottle, or the magic kind of just disperses.
Yeah, and that's where we're at with that.
Question 4, which is a question reiterated in a sense. What is your stance on individuals that have had to bend the rules, seen or otherwise implied, to achieve a goal or prove a general point?
Now, do you mean like in the context of a clan battle or something?
E- Kind of, yes. Like where you a difference of perspective that looks almost like it bends the rules, or it goes against what's generally given as an outline or a general perspective about something.
Okay. See, that's a very tough one to answer, because if I said that, no, that's always wrong, then I would be a hypocrite, because one of the one of the most like controversial moments in the community involved something very similar to what you're talking about, and I was one of the people who did it. Um, back in 2014, there was a lot of bad blood between LSC and EL, um, and we were going to finally have our clan battle. And I don't know if he talked about it with you or not, but right before this clan battle,
Mm-hmm.
Straxus had actually approached me about possibly joining LSC, because Dark Mount Gaming was going through some stuff, and he was basically out of the clan. And
This did
I said,
briefly cross that conversation, actually.
okay, okay. And basically, I told him then the way we did things at the time, was like, hey, we take a vote on anyone who wants to join the clan. And right now, we're about to get set up for this battle. So after this EL clan battle, we'll kind of go into it. And I think the answer, everyone probably would have voted yes on that. I mean, Straxus, who would not want him in their group? That would be stupid. But I still, at the same time, wanted to give everyone a chance to have their input. I don't know what negative input anyone would have had, but basically to say their piece about it. But I wanted to get through the clan battle first, just because I didn't want to be accused of trying to like stack the roster or whatever on short notice. Well, he, I guess, didn't understand what I was trying to tell him about that, and he took it very personally and was kind of offended. And he's like, well, if there's a possibility that people are not going to want me there, I don't want to be there. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then the day of the clan battle, in the middle of it, he actually joined the EL. So,
Mm.
it's like, wow, okay, so we, try to do the right thing here and not bring someone in, the day before. Like, he literally joins the third match into the clan battle.
Like a sub,
And
kind of like a sub in or a switch in.
well, see, that's what he thought he was doing. He thought he was joining as a substitute, but Lord Megatron and the others were hyping it up like, no, he's an official member now. He is on our roster. So, in response to that, and it was stupid, and I shouldn't have done it. But with the other people we had in the clan at the time, like Gubala, he was in the clan. Polo Slash was in the clan. And they recommended, well, why don't we bring in Beast Overlord? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's bring Beast in. And so we both sides were wrong in doing that, I think. And it didn't end well for either side, because then Straxus, I think, felt kind of used as a result of that. And Beast Overlord really didn't play Fall Cybertron anymore, but there was no real graceful way to tell him, like, hey, look, this was a mistake. I just did this for stupid political reasons, basically, and now I don't I don't need you anymore.
There's no right or wrong redeeming argument.
Right, exactly. And the other LSC guys, outside of myself and a couple of others, weren't consulted. I just said, oh, by the way, Gubala's a member now, or I'm sorry, Beast Overlord's a member now. And they didn't take that very well, and rightfully they shouldn't have, because up to that point, we had made those kinds of decisions as a group. But it was a bad idea for both sides. And I think now, in retrospect, we all kind of recognize that, we shouldn't, neither of us should have done that, but we did. I mean, it's just the time, was what it was. So when you ask a question like that, I can't really condemn it too hard since I've done it, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm exactly proud of.
Okay, I can understand. I mean, there's that one dark, shady area for most clans once upon a time that we try to learn from and move ahead on.
Yeah. And I like to think as far as, moral failings, if you want to call it that. I mean, that's kind of dramatic, but, as far as those sorts of quandaries are concerned, that's really the only major one that we participated in that regard. So if that's the worst we've done, then that's, I'll take that.
Okay. Question 5. Does leaderboards hold sentimentality for you?
Well, yeah, obviously, because otherwise no one would believe I'm any good.
Truth.
No,
Truth.
I'm joking, but no, I mean, yes and no. Like I'm only on one leaderboard. I think, if I'm not mistaken, number 6 in Conquest. I believe 5 was my highest ranking there. I'm not 100% sure. I was definitely, making an effort to climb that leaderboard. Because realistically speaking, anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a killer. I have the KDR of a suicide bomber. It's not anything impressive, but I am really good at Conquest. If that's the one thing that I will kind of give myself credit for, it's that. So, yeah, it's nice to see your name up there, and knowing that, all the time I put into it really paid off because I'm ranked in the top 10 of this. But, if tomorrow, someone was able to hack the leaderboard and replace, my name or anybody else's, or knock me down however many spots, there's really nothing I can do about it. And at this point, people either know who I am or they don't, and that's all I can say.
But you would still be entitled to your emotional duress about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I would really have much emotional duress about it, though, just because, it's been so long since there's been a public Conquest game, or really a series of them where you can just sit and grind that. That the leaderboard is pretty much fixed. Like, nobody at this point is ever going to get any higher than they already are on that particular leaderboard. And if they do, it's going to be by making games up at the very bottom of the leaderboard, under a new account. But no position in the top 20 of that leaderboard is ever going to change at this point.
Nah, because between the number 20 and the 21, that's a very big gap.
I can believe it. But I mean, the only other leaderboard that I thought that maybe I ever had a shot of getting onto would be the top 20 in kills, just because of the fact that I played the game so much that it's well, even if I don't play it very well in that regard, I'm playing it a lot and getting a lot of kills. But that's again, like you said, that the distance between 20 and 21, and then further down, I think my rank is 45 or 50, something like that. Is just insurmountable at this point.
Okay. Question 6. Have you had the chance to play for a clan or a gaming group of friends? And that does reiterate the question, some that we had at the top of the panel, actually, because you did go into detail some on the past affiliations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, obviously, yeah, I have played in clans. I've been in, 3 total clans on Fall of Cybertron. The very first one that I was in, what was it called? The Predacons. It was the Predacon clan. Do you know Blue Fox?
Yeah, I know her.
Okay, yeah, this was a clan that she founded, many, many years ago. And it was me, her, Higgs, and a couple of other people that don't really play anymore, but used to play a lot back then. Um, and nothing really ever happened with that one. And eventually, she just disbanded it, saying, look, I don't have the time to dedicate to running this organization. So, if you want to join another clan, go ahead, but this one ain't going to be active. And I said, okay. And by that time, I was, aware of the different clans that were out there. And just like a lot of people, I had seen like the WCW accounts running around, and I played against them. And, I really wanted to join WCW. But I didn't know anything about it beyond what I had read on GameFAQs, which was confusing, just as an outsider kind of looking in. And then shortly after I, actually joined the forum, started posting, I started talking to people like Lord Megatron, Yuggle, and a few others, and they invited me to join Elite Overlords, so I did. And that was the second clan that I was in. And I was with them from, I want to say July of 2013 through April of 2014, and then that was when we started LSC, and that's kind of the history of my clan hopping, if you want to call it that.
Constructive, and actually in a positive sense, actually, because it's not doing it behind the scenes or being cheeky about it, or you're trying to hide it. It's just moving from group to group in a nice successive run.
Yeah, and God, excuse me. Sorry. Really, what kind of led to the impetus for us leaving EO to start LSC, there were a few things going on, and I kind of alluded to them, earlier when we were talking. But the big thing was just there was such a huge roster with EO. It was very easy for people to get lost in the clan. And Tact, for example, is a big clan too. And I know that you have experienced the pain of people wanting to be in a clan battle, but there's just too many people already there. Not everyone's going to get a chance to play.
Right.
And that sucks. But what we had originally was a situation where there were 4 separate leaders of this group. There was Yuggle, Lord Megatron, Numpties, and Star Wars Boy. At least when I joined, they were the 4 leaders. Well, already right there, I mean, that's kind of like, why do you really need 4 leaders? Why not?
That's almost like 4 different clans in a sense.
And it kind of was. And the big thing, too, that I recognized pretty early on was that as far as, actual leading was concerned, the only person who was actually doing that was Lord Megatron. Nump was, happy to have the title, and, he was happy to kind of bring his stature and position to the clan, because even then everyone knew that he was, an awesome player. One of the best, if not the best in the game, even back then. Yuggle had the title because, I guess technically he was one of the founders of the clan, and Star Wars Boy had the title, but he really didn't care. He just kind of wanted to do his own thing. And, when I joined, there was sort of a little conflict in the background that was brewing between, Lord Megatron and Numpties on the one hand, and Yuggle and Star Wars Boy on the other. And that ultimately led to Yuggle and Star Wars Boy leaving with a bunch of people like Dragon 1190 and Mr. DJ, and a few others, and forming their own clan, Legends United, or LU. I don't know if you've heard of them or familiar with that at all, but, that happened.
Studying GameFAQs, I did happen across a post between a one unique discussion of events between Danicky and Star Wars and Nump about 3 years ago. That was made here on this when LU first created, and it had its first CB, I think, against EL or EO. And then it just stuck off, and then just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, kinda. The problem with LU, and I guess I'll get some flack for saying this, but the clan was comprised almost entirely of people who played exactly the same way that Star Wars Boy did.
So a bunch of SWB proteges.
Yes, that was pretty much the entirety of the group. Now you can look at that as being good or bad or whatever, but that kind of left a bad taste in some people's mouth. The other thing too was that as everyone is, I'm sure by now aware, Yuggle has had his share of conflicts with people, disagreements, arguments, yada yada yada, and this goes back many years. And it was the same thing here. So people unfortunately kind of shied away from doing anything with LU because of the reputation of some of the people involved, and just because of the play style of some of the players. And I don't know who all LU did a clan battle against. We tried to do one in EO against LU, but we wound up discontinuing it about 5 minutes into the first match because someone used the Energon recharger after we had clearly stated like 50 times no pickups, and everyone agreed to it. And we were in the middle of the match, and I was like, "Hey, look, this happened." LM said, "Okay, kill it," and we just left.
It was a mindset, I take it, before the CBL.
Yes, yeah. This was well before the CBL. This would have been at the I want to say the end of 2013, like around November, December, somewhere in there. I could be mistaken though.
Okay, and let's see. To extend my question in question 6, since you have had the chance to play for a previous clan once upon a time, how has the clan scene or the battling scene evolved your perspective on being associated with the community?
Well, it's funny because you'll have a lot of people who will complain about the community and say it's toxic and everyone in the community sucks and yada yada yada. And I mean, there might be some truth to the fact that things do get a little out of hand at times, do get a little out of control, and definitely I've been part of that on both sides. But I made a lot of friends. There, like I said before, a couple of things that I've said and done that I probably shouldn't have, that I kind of regret. But on the whole, I mean, it's been a good, fun experience for me. I wish I was able to actually play now, but my controller's broken, so I can't really do anything about that.
Really?
But yeah, I had kind of taken a break for other reasons, and then the thing just I don't know why stopped working. I hit the PS button, and then like it immediately loses sync after it comes on. So I have got a great Netflix player. But the overall scene, I mean, it was really interesting to kind of get a sense of people's different play styles and to play it at a more competitive level than just what you get into in the public matches. And that actually kind of segues into where I was going when I was talking about what led up to LSC being created. We thought that when the LU people left, that would probably resolve all the issues of EO. But in some ways it did, but in other ways it kind of created more issues, because then there was a big drive to recruit more people, try to make up for the deficit of what we had lost. And it's like, well, we only lost like 6 or 8 people, though. Do we really need anyone else? Because we've still got like 30. So we started picking up all these people, and they were people that, in some instances, a lot of us really disagreed with being in the clan. Most prominently was probably Rasheen. We excuse me, those of us who had played War for Cybertron remembered Rasheen as a pretty big, violator of
he was a good player, but he was one of those guys that kept it to the shady grizz a little bit.
Yeah, he sure did. And in Fall of Cybertron, it was the same thing. Not to the same extent, but he did definitely have his moments there. And we really disagreed with that, and disagreed with a few other decisions about the direction of the group and about a potential merger with another clan, which would have basically, as a clan of at that time 4 people, that we would have taken 2 of them and made them co-leaders, so we would again be in the same situation where we have 4 leaders for no reason when we really only need 1 or 2, and it just didn't seem particularly fair. And the other big factor into it was the fact that there was a big disagreement about how many clans can a person be in at one time. My stance has always been 1.
And I can understand that stance, because I mean, you want to try and have a general loyalty or compliance to mainly one group. I mean, it's fine to have on record to be of having been a part of a number of different groups, but I mean, why make it harder on yourself by juggling said executions?
Well, and that's exactly right. And what we had were people, who would be in EO and DMG. Well, what happens when you have a clan battle between EO and DMG?
You gotta
Who
pick a
does that
side.
member play for? Do they get to play at all? Do they have to sit out? What do they do? And at the same time, like, why should one clan basically give another clan an advantage in their own, separate clan battles? So we ran up against that, and then, again, and I think I touched on this in a comment that I made on one of your videos. WCW at that time was comprised, almost entirely of nothing but people's alt accounts from other clans, which, WCW was don't get me wrong, great clan, really important to that era. But, in retrospect, if we looked back at that and tried to do that now, there's no way that that would fly. Like, we would not let people just secretly join the clan and not say who they are.
And that's understandable. A different mindset, a different era had a different mindset once upon a time where it wasn't as universally frowned upon in a sense for it's before clan hopping was even an issue.
Right, because you could just be in multiple clans.
Yeah.
And it was split about 50-50 in terms of people, and not just in EO, but like in the community in general. Of people who wanted a one clan rule, and then people who thought anything goes. And that was one issue that we had with LU, was because they had people that were in multiple clans, and that was why people didn't want to fight LU partially. Also because of the other issues that I mentioned earlier. And eventually, when it became clear to us that EO wasn't going to change or make any movement on these areas, that's when we left, and that's when we picked up MZ and Lord Starscream to form the company.
Okay. Number 7. What's more important to your perspective on enjoying the adventure offered in the gameplay? Friendship or power itself?
Well, both. No, it's obviously it's good to have friends, and having friends in the game is what really makes it. It kind of sucks just to be playing by yourself all the time, and not getting to interact with a good crew of people. Whether it's a clan or just buddies you're hanging out with or whatever. But I don't know. For me, it's a lot more rewarding to, how do I say this? It's more rewarding to attain that power with your friends. How about that?
Okay, power is good, but it's at its richest when it's shared.
Yeah, and it's when it's shared with people that you want to share it with. There's no point in playing if you're not playing to win. Is the way I feel about it. That doesn't necessarily mean again, being the guy who tries to cheat or take advantage of other people or whatever. You don't want to do that, but you do want to play in a competitive atmosphere with people that you know and trust and like and get along with and have fun with. And if you can parlay that into coming out on top, then go for it. That's what's really all about to me.
Okay. And my last question on the panel is, what is your advice to the newer generation of players seeking a great online adventure to be had?
I guess I have a few things. Number one, just because you think you can start a clan doesn't mean you should start a clan. For years, this isn't anything new, but been going on for quite some time, is people will start these groups after playing for a relatively short period of time with no understanding of what it takes to actually run a group like that or to be successful with it. It's not something everybody can do, even though they for whatever reason think it is. Number two, have respect for your own reputation. Because it's just a game, and everyone's there just to have fun, yada yada yada. But if you're a dick, people aren't going to want to play with you. So if you present yourself that way, then you're probably not going to get a whole lot back out of it. Unfortunately, we've got a couple of groups now, a couple of people now that maybe aren't necessarily new players, but are kind of introducing themselves to the broader community that don't have any respect for their own reputations. And it's unfortunate. People won't take them seriously, and people don't want to play with them, and that's why. And I guess finally, don't get too caught up in everything. Remember that it is just supposed to be, fun, and it's supposed to be a game. Obviously, you want to win, but don't let that override the basic fact that it is a game.
Yeah, don't let it be all about winning.
Well, you do want it to be all about winning, but just you want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Don't do it in such a way that you have to alienate people, sacrifice friendships, and again, like I said, anything that disrespects your own reputation.
Yeah. Okay. Because in an environment like this, selfishness can easily take over common sense.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And that happens to everyone at some point. Whether it's in the game or real life or whatever. It's just knowing how to avoid those situations and what to do when confronted with them.
Okay. And I do believe that concludes my questionnaire panel.
Okay, well, anything else that you needed me to talk about or had questions about?
I do believe for the time being that shall be.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem, Tarq. It's always a pleasure talking with a good player of the grid and getting their perspective on times once upon a time.
Yeah, ye old days.
And oddly enough, with the new era on PlayStation 4, I guess it's almost kind of slightly revived.
Yeah, a little bit.
With a new golden era.
I was going to say I don't have the PS4 version, but, if it's got potential to move on, let's go for it.
Yeah. Well, viewers, you heard it firsthand between me and my panel here with Tarquinus. You guys tune in to the next podcast we have for GameFAQs.com. Y'all take care, and as always, till all are one.